Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Thanks for doing this for all of us. Yeah, this is off my new album called Into the Twilight. So just like that word. What twilight falls upon my future turning black. I've come so far that I'm unable to turn back. Amidst these shapes of gray, I wander and I pray that the twilight turns to day before too long. I pray that I can find the way the sun is gone. The sun is gone, and as I wander over unfamiliar ground, I get no answer from the half light all around. I know my eyes will see. I wish I could believe that the twilight turns day before too long. I pray that I can find the way the sun is gone. Is it the last time that I see the light of day? These silhouettes of flash against the sky of gray passing by. Perfect strangers all around. I don't know where I'm found. No. And as I wander over unfamiliar ground, I get no answer from the half light all around. I know my eyes to see. I wish I could believe that the twilight turns day before too long. I pray that I can find the way the sun is gone. I pray the twilight turns day before too long. I pray that I can find the way the sun is gone. I pray the twilight turns day. I can find the way. Twilight turns day before too long. Before too long.
That was great. Thank you. So
All right.
we we had a nice chat before, but just for the people just tuning in, tell us a little bit about yourself, your musical career, and what you've been up to.
Well, musically, like everybody my age in the early 80s, I wanted to beat John Lennon because they had just re-released all the Beatles stuff. And actually, it's funny how I came into that. When I was a preteen, I was a big Elvis fan. And I had all those like real late records, like when he was in Las Vegas. And I think I had a big 4-record set called Elvis in the Movies. And then, I caught the Buddy Holly movie that's, pretty much fiction, but, an entertaining movie. And I thought, oh, I like a lot of these songs. And I went and found that album. I was about 12 or 13 years old. There was an album called 20 Golden Greats. And at the time, it was the only thing you could get by Buddy Holly. And then I was hooked for a long time. And when I was a later teenager, my cousin and I started writing songs together, and he was a huge Beatle fan, and he got me hooked onto that. Although I was always like, well, Elvis and Buddy Holly are much better. Little did I know they were all fans of each other, so it didn't really matter. Up until the late '90s, I was pretty much a musician wanting to get a record deal and be a big star and whatever. But I did have like a day job, and life got in the way after a while, and really I hadn't done a lot. I moved to Florida in the mid 2000s, and while I was down there, I did what I'm doing here today, is a lot of a solo acoustic just for fun, maybe once every couple of weeks. But when this whole COVID thing happened, and they closed down civilization, I said, you know what? Nobody else is releasing anything. I'm going to release an album, and that's what happened. And so far, it's been pretty good. We released it to about 345 radio stations, and almost 50 of them are already playing it. And there's more every week. We had done the single "Invisible Hand" last fall, and we got up to about 55 stations, I believe, playing it on terrestrial radio. And finally, with the album getting played now, it's finally crossed over onto Spotify, and that song is starting to get on playlists and what have you. So I don't know if I'll ever play a show. If they ever open the places where you play shows back up, then maybe I'll think about it. We'll see if people are still listening to the album.
Well, there's plenty of venues out here in Genesee County. I'm sure that once we can start having music again, they'd be happy to get you. Our musical background isn't that far apart. I started out with Elvis and the Beatles. The first LP I bought for myself was the Beatles, and then in high school, I was probably 15 when the Buddy Holly story came out. And that really turned me on to Buddy Holly, and that started me looking up Carl Perkins and Jerry Lee Lewis and Eddie Cochran, Gene Vincent. Really got into the rockabilly stuff. We also have, you have a background in economics. I want you to, and we have a shared interest there we were talking about earlier. Right? Tell us about your economics background.
Yeah, well, I wrote for the Foundation for Economic Education for a couple of years while they were doing freelance, and they've kind of culled that down a little bit. They'll probably open it back up again. But, I've been writing on economics and politics for about the last, 2020? Wow, 13 years. Doesn't seem like that long. And that was probably the job I liked the most. Way back I think it was 2008 or 9, I got the idea for Invisible Hand. And literally for like 10 years, all I had was, that's what they call the invisible hand. And it was over in my head. And I knew, I had like 2 lines, and I never sat down and finished it until whenever I've got a YouTube. It was either 19 or 20. No, it was definitely 2019. I sat down and finished it, I think, in March. And then I recorded a little YouTube of it. And then sometime during 2019, I recorded the single. I want to say maybe towards the end of the year. And then I thought, well, I'm not going to do anything with it until next year. And then we released it as a single to radio last fall, like I said, and it's done pretty well. I was surprised, that something like that would, appeal to the radio audience, but so far so good.
It's frankly a pretty geeky subject.
Yeah.
So we got listener Joe Eldred, who's piped in with he loves Buddy, he loves rockabilly, and he seems pretty enthusiastic about FEE. So we got at least
right.
one
Joe,
person out there, right?
Thanks for joining.
So you're going to do the song "Invisible Hand." I thought maybe I should bring out this quote from Adam Smith. This comes from, as we were discussing earlier, he talks about the invisible hand both in his book, Theory of Moral Sentiments, and is better known. I mean, most people, I think, are familiar with at least the title of Wealth of Nations. So here's your economic lessons for the day, viewers. By preferring the support of domestic to that of foreign industry, he intends only his own security, and by directing that industry in such a manner as to produce may be of the greatest value, he intends only his own gain. And he is in this, as in many other cases, led by an invisible hand, to promote an end which was no part of his intention, nor it is always the worse for the society that it was not part of it. By pursuing his own interest, he frequently promotes that of the society more effectually than when he really intends to promote it. So one of the founding touchstone aspects of free market economics. And so I find it really interesting that you wrote a song about it. So let's hear The Invisible Hand.
All right. Everybody wants to change the world. There's so much that they want to do. They say we all have got to get together. I wonder if they thought that through. They say a central plan is what we need to overcome all this thoughtless greed. All for one and one for all. We've got to have a single mind. They say we can't pursue our separate interests if we don't want people left behind. I'm here to tell you that that just ain't true. We help each other when we don't mean to. That's what we call the invisible hand. Something no politician understands. Just leave it up to supply and demand and follow the golden rule. There's no such thing as a common good. Everybody's got a different way to figure out what will make them happy. It's not for someone else to say. That's okay, you can't leave them be. They'll help more people if they're just set free. That's what we call the invisible hand. Long before sun was breathing England. No economic program ever planned comes close to the good it will do. What I'm telling you is nothing new. It's just isn't what you want to hear. But free your mind from being red or blue and let go of that it's so fear. Don't believe so-called public servants. They're all out for themselves too. And anything they take from someone else, they also take away from you. Don't believe them, there ain't nothing free. You're better off with your liberty. And leave it up to the invisible hand. There's no better way to serve your fellow man. Trade in peace and in no one's command, and see that your rulers fall. That's what will save us all. Just leave it up to the invisible hand. Just leave it up to the invisible hand. Just leave it up to the invisible hand. Just leave it up to the invisible hand.
Well, that's great. I really enjoyed that. That song, as you mentioned, I think is available on Spotify, you said?
Yeah.
Is it on Apple Music?
Yeah, just about all of those. You
Okay.
can get it anywhere.
And
You
then
can even buy it if you're feeling charitable, but
Joe Eldred says The Invisible Hand is a great song. I also want to mention if people go to YouTube and search for Tom Mullen, Invisible Hand, you can find the video there, and it looks like it was shot in Buffalo.
yeah, mostly in Buffalo and also in Harrisburg and where's the chocolate factory? Hershey, PA. So there is one shot of us at the chocolate factory.
Well, that's great. So we are geeking out about guitars before we came on. I think anybody that's really into guitars might be interested in what you're playing. So tell us what you got in your hands there.
It's a very old 1937 Regal archtop. And I believe it's Regal, although it doesn't say Regal. It's got this strange Art Deco, headstock with, it says Pit on it, but it was advertised as Regal. It sounds the same, and I really like it. It's very easy to play. These are the guitars, like before there were amplifiers, they would play these, and the old jazz guys back in the back of the orchestra, and you could kind of hear it without an amp. So it's I really like it.
It looks great. It looks fabulous. So let's go into the next song. Why don't you tell us about How Could I Think, and jump right into it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I wrote songs for the Skeptics, and I wrote songs, my band, the Skeptics, which was most active in the 90s, but we make a comeback once in a while. And all the songs about women that I wrote that turned out on the Skeptics albums were real positive. And then somehow or other, all the ones on my solo album were negative. So I don't know who this is about, but it's How Could I Think About Love with a Girl Like You is the theme. So here it is. Not you. There's no better girl for show that a man could find. And you say that I always knew where you drew the line. Well, you with a grace and style, but I see that's the goddamn smile. How could I think about love with a girl like you? It may be true that you and I happen by design. And you say that I always knew where you drew the line. Well, it's a fool that I must be. Well, I look or refuse to see. How could I think about love with a girl like you? A girl like you, with a girl like you. A girl like you, with a girl like you. How could I think about it, never doubt it at all? How could I never doubt it, never doubt in you? How could I think about love? Maybe true that you and I happened by design. And you say that I always knew where you drew the line. Yeah, it's a fool then that I must be. Well, I look but refuse to see. How could I think about love with a girl like you? A girl like you, with a girl like you. A girl like you, with a girl like you. A girl like you, with a girl like you.
I think that's some of the little Elvis Costello influence you mentioned in your bio.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I mean, somebody told me that, and I said, maybe you're right. I love them. I wish I could sound like them. But,
we just need Pete Thomas and Steve Naive and Bruce Thomas, and then we'll be set, right?
Yeah, and a singer, yeah.
So, we mentioned you're from Buffalo, but you have a very important, significant tie to Genesee County, and that's your lovely wife. I think she's somewhere in the neighborhood right now, if you want to introduce her.
Yeah. Lisa Cote Mullen, come on over.
I'm good, you're good. Stay where you are.
But everybody calls her Wheezy.
No.
Well, it's
How you doing?
Nice to meet you. Step forward a little bit. You're out of focus.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah, we got the blur background in, so it's like, yeah, she's the looks. I'm the not brains. But we actually live in Middleport now, so you know, I was raised in Cheektowaga. She was raised in Leroy, and we lived in Florida for 10 years, and when we moved back, we moved here. So closer to Batavia than to Buffalo, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, go Knights, right?
I'm sorry?
Go
Yeah.
Go Knights.
Oh.
What did you say?
Great.
Yeah.
So, well, very nice meeting you.
You too.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
And the next song's The Old Ones. Why don't you tell us about that and jump in?
Well, this one, I wrote the lyrics when my Aunt Katie, I'm half Lebanese, so the Lebanese side, her name was Kuffa, and everyone called her Katie in English. And I was actually in the hospital while she was dying, and thinking about, holy cow, you know, not just the fact that she was going away, but all of that generation kind of was going away at the same time. And, you know, especially when you get to our age, it's like, wait a minute, you know, we're the ones who're supposed to know what they're doing. Like, you've always got somebody behind you that, like, you know, at least you can go to them and, you know, make sure that somebody's not screwing up. But as you get a little bit older, you think, what are we going to do when the people are looking at us? You know, I certainly don't think I know what I'm doing. So that's kind of the feeling behind the song. And I just, you know, sat down and wrote the lyrics.
Great. Well, let's hear it.
All right. Matt, I might have to do a little tuning here because I thought I heard that before. And if we're going to hear, well, which button is it? Give me 1 second.
While you do that, I'll let viewers know next week we're going to have Evan Anstey on. He's going to be playing some new material for us. We've had him as part of the Batavian Sessions before, so look forward to that. And if you're a musician watching, drop me a line, howard@thebatavian.com, and let's set something up. We'd love to have you on too. All right.
All right, the old ones. Familiar touch of a steady hand, the stories told of a distant land. I was too young then to understand what was said to me. So here we are in this changing time, Renaissance times 99. Where will we look for our faith to find when the old ones are gone? 100 years of joy and sorrow, where then did it lead? Beyond the memory, and all the tears we cry tomorrow, and all the hope and fear will lead us right back here, I know. A trembling voice and a failing eye, a window through to an age gone by, and a wisdom that I can only try now to understand. A quiet peace as the end draws near, a faith too strong that has come to fear. What will become of us left down here when the old ones are gone? 100 years of joy and sorrow, where then did it lead? Beyond the memory, and all the tears we cry tomorrow, and all the hope and fear will lead us right back here, I know. And so much is lost that we'll never see. One thing that left up to you and me, to keep that promise of love now that the old ones are gone. To keep that promise of love now that the old ones are gone. to keep that promise of love now that the old ones are gone.
Well, beautiful song.
Thank you.
So, looking at this next title, I think we also should have a shared interest in Star Trek.
yeah, I confess.
We're going to play You Were Right, Mr. Spock. Tell us what that song's about and let us hear it.
Well, I actually wrote this one before it was even more true, which is, you know, all of civilization has left the reservation as far as I'm concerned. And you know, there's another one of those songs where I had the chorus, I don't know, it might have been in the 1990s, to be honest with you. And one day, a couple of years ago, I sat down and wrote it out and said, I got to get this done. Stop singing to myself. It was, you know, haunting me. So, you know, and some of the things, you know, I'm sure I've projected a few of my own opinions onto our favorite Vulcan, but I think it's pretty faithful to the way he came across in the original series.
Great. Let's hear it.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Same thing. This old girl is really cool, but sometimes she needs a little, you know. I'm gonna have to do my best with that. All right. And in simple philosophy, among your noblest traits, an ability to gracefully engage any debate. It must be so frustrating when you fly your wisdom here, where whoever yells loudest always gets the loudest cheer. They say that you're unfeeling, cause they've never seen you cry. But you care more than all of them, although your eyes are dry. And while their hearts are bleeding, saying someone else should pay, you work on the answer, then you quietly save the day. You were right, Mr. Spock, about everything you said. We humans just not logical, too crazy in the head. We abandon reason and emotion rules instead. And all we get is misery, liberty is dead. They call you isolationist, cause you say no to war, even though they cannot tell you what they're fighting for. You point out those who start to hide out safely from the fray, making money off the suckers who are forced to die in faith. You were right, Mr. Spock, about everything you said. We humans just aren't logical, too crazy in the head. We'd rather fight in burning houses, laying cities low, and squander hard fortunes instead of watch them grow. And do you ever feel like giving up? Do you ever wonder why? You cast your pearls before to find the swine. Sometimes it must be hard to try. And everything you warned about has come to lay us low. It must be hard to not just smile and say I told you so. But will we ever listen? Will your logic have its day? Or will we stay on self-destruct no matter what you say? You were right, Mr. Spock. It's a fact we better face if we're ever gonna find a way to save this human race. And when it seems like every hope is sinking like a stone, remember that no matter what, you're really not alone. You were right, Mr. Spock. You were right, Mr. Spock. You were right, Mr. Spock. You were right, Mr. Spock.
Well, that's a catchy, snappy tune.
Thank you.
And a bit of an anti-war message there, I appreciate.
Yeah, always.
So good. Well, Tom, thank you for joining us today. I really enjoyed it. I hope our viewers did too. And hopefully, when things kind of clear up, we'll get you playing out here somewhere in Genesee County and get a chance to meet. That'd be great.
Love to, and thank you for having me on, Howard. I appreciate it.
Great. And to all our viewers out there and those who will tune in later, stay safe and have a good evening.